I'd just be curious, like when you first started out, what did you do wrong with culture? What did you hire the best performer with the shit attitude, or how did it start out?
When we first started, it was only me, my partner, and the dog, and she had the hardest job of everyone, having to put up with me at home and at work. But she put up with what the culture was for there. But in terms of the client side and getting people on board, we're quite lucky because we initially started with truck drivers. Roading and building is what RB stands for, but we were truck drivers initially because of the cartage side. We're contractors first and foremost. So we have an arm with truck drivers there. We had a master driver trainer, and we'd have probably a bit more communication with them for a start. Like now, today, progress 4 years on, we're actually in 6 different branches across the country, from Auckland down to Dunedin and Queenstown. It's the lower south as we go. We all go to Invercargill. There's some stuff kicking off. When we just had that truck drivers side of things, there's it's a competitive market in Christchurch, but we would put on barbecues in the morning and actually do things for them and then give the clear communication, because they're basically just in the truck, they get information, they go. And then what, I guess, success for us with that side of things, or what we learned, was that they're just, in the blue collar realm of things, especially with the earthquakes in Christchurch, it was just bums on seats, and people just, if they didn't fit the mold, they would move on. Someone didn't really take the time to stop and figure out why they didn't quite fit, or talk to the individual, or be that sort of communicator in between the client and the candidate. And so we had a big desk of just truck drivers for a start, and I could talk their lingo. It was quite easy. I could learn to drive a Road Ranger, but when I first got into trucks beforehand, I had to Google what a Road Ranger was and an gear, all that sort of thing. But researching, understanding, you're the expert in that situation, but you're dealing with people, so you've got to really get out of them the trust, and then also get them to communicate to you if there's things that aren't going right. Because for us, as an agency, our success is really looking after those the key people in this situation, which is the drivers, or now everyone else in the other fields that we do. But the same premise and the lessons we learned early on was communication, building trust, and then building value for the client by bringing up the situations that the drivers don't always do. Staff will just, especially in blue collar, like I said before, in construction, they'll just do what they're told, or they'll just get annoyed with things that can fester. And when you get a bigger team, it becomes a bigger problem. Stopping those situations from getting out of hand or too much before it gets to the client, or they lose staff, or if clients have issues with culture but they're too busy focusing on the day-to-day, we get into the nitty-gritty. We deal with the culture because we're right there and amongst it. We can actually bring out these situations, bring them to the client the right way, which builds more value, builds more trust, develops the people that we put into them too. So that's really the success, and the lessons we learned early on is that we actually care, we want to help them, and we want to make a difference. But if you hone in on how close you are to your people, that other stuff gets a lot easier. So that's how we sort of grew so quickly and developed from just that.
Have you had any zingers of like horror stories of things going wrong and culture not being right, and then a bit of biffo? Like it gets feral, you know what I mean? Someone who turned up with a machete, I heard from another recruiter. It was crazy. But anyway,
It's quite sad. I mean, people say join the police and you get good work stories, but I'd say if you join recruitment, you get just enough. And if anyone sort of watches and knows or has worked in recruitment, you'll know what I'm saying. But mate, we've had people stabbed. We've had people arrested off site. We've had, sadly, over the years we've been doing it, we have actually had some loss in the business as well. We had a staff member in SDMS that was stabbed due to some discrepancy that happened, and it sort of carried on outside of work, and he passed away. So, yeah, it's been a bit. But there is also, back to your question, sorry, for culture, there's been some clients that we've dealt with, and like there's some of them, there's one in particular I can think of that I wouldn't have dealt with, but it wasn't, but for one of the people in the leadership positions, he'd just started with them, and I worked with him years ago in an operational sense before I moved to Auckland. And so we had a great relationship with him. He had a colourful background in terms of when he was younger. We got on really well, and the same premise of what we're doing. What I mentioned with the truck drivers is I got to know his team, I got to know his business, and then he even employed a couple of my brothers, which he upskilled and brought into the fold before I moved away from Christchurch. And so our relationship was tight. We already knew how each other worked, and I respected him immensely for what he did for me and my family and the people that I put into his business. And so the only opportunity, I worked with this company, which I won't name, only because of him. And he did amazingly with the people that we put to him. We had the same thing we had running years ago, and it was going well, but the leadership at the top didn't change. I mean, we were very frank. I brought the director of the business, my friend, which I had the relationship with and still do today. He actually just built me a really cool table for my back door area at home, and a barlender they're delivering this weekend, which is pretty cool. We brought them together to the pub and said, hey, look, these are some of the things that we're hearing from the guys on the ground, because we're very close to them. I've got recruiters that have the same mentality as me, and the best way for us to do our job is to understand where they need support, where they need development, and where the client or the client's going wrong in terms of the culture. Because some of the companies that we deal with are huge, and it's easy to get lost in the situation. So we brought him some uncomfortable conversations. I don't mind having them if the outcome's positive, or the intentions for the outcome to be positive. Some people don't like receiving them. They took them on fairly well to a point, but then eventually it sort of slipped into a situation where it wasn't retrievable. We didn't want to put people to them. Unfortunately, the risk of our brand being associated with them, the way that they treated people, was too much, and we pulled out completely. And the person who I immensely respect and has built these tables for me has now moved on, and we've helped them into another opportunity where we're still working with them somewhere else, which has the same values as us. Because culture's the most important thing, I think, for any business that's looking to it's got achieve goals for growth or supporting families and everything else. That's, I think, at the core of everything else. The rest of it sort of falls into place. Yes, you've got to have process, and you've got to have adherence to obligations in terms of legislation around HR and health and safety and so forth. But if you understand what those are, and you can give clarity on how to manage them in the best way, and educate people to why you need to do it and what repercussions there are if you don't, and support them with their learnings and so forth, then it's not too hard to build a really good business with the right people. And we really want to work with those companies that do, because we actually support furthermore. So say, for example, predominantly in traffic management, so the one we sort of sit mostly at the moment, where we upskill staff. So people will come in and they'll need licenses, they want to do it, but they've never done it before. So we'd actually take the admin out of that for our clients. We go get them upskilled. We've got relationships and traffic that can get them the right qualifications, and then we support them to work in that business and, look outside, not only just what they don't have, but what their personal situations are as well. And I've got some really passionate recruiters that are big on turning rough diamonds into big shiny ones, which are a hell of a lot of success as well, which is really, really cool. So, yeah.
What do you, on the diamond front, there's an art, like believing in someone. They did the study, it starts with P, but they basically told teachers, they said, these students are really good, but they weren't. They lied to them. And then those students became very good because they lived up to that expectation. So how do you balance they're a bad egg as opposed to, we actually need to support and they could turn around? Like, how do you juggle that between like getting someone that's good or making the call that they're not right?
Probably communication and due diligence is a key part. So I think for our industry, there's a few companies that will glaze over the uglies, but we prefer to table all the uglies and look at how we can work through it if there's an opportunity. So we've got a lot of systems in place to do full checks. We work closely with some providers that are looking to support those that maybe have had a colourful past but want to get on the straight and narrow. So it's talking to the people that support them in that scenario, and then giving all that information along with, sitting down with them, obviously ourselves, and going through their background. But you can get a lot from looking the person in the eye, to be honest. And if you're asking the right questions to get the right information out, some people will be honest, some people won't. This is the thing, we're dealing with a human element here. But I think, more often than not, we've had good success with just being upfront about people's past and looking to what they can do going forward, and then supporting them in that moment. There's been a lot of letdowns, but then that's recruitment. I think if you give, like you just said about the story of, that they were good students, but then they won't. If you set the expectations and you set the pathway and the steps to where they need to be, and then you maybe hold their hand for a portion of it, but give them the tools to get there, then they'll be successful like those students, like you say, more often than not.
But it's crazy how many people are just waiting for a good word, someone that actually believes in them and they live up to that expectation. You think another way to look at someone that's got that sort of past is they, if supported correctly, are incredibly grateful for the opportunity. So if you can navigate through that, I mean, it could be a really sticky person. If you just generally care about understand that there's going to be ups and downs and wobblies, hopefully no one's stabbing anyone, like you say, but there's lines. But how do you differentiate that? Do you go through, one recruiter said to me, he's like, if they're really good at job interviews, they're not good at jobs because they've done so many interviews. Or he also has like the third one, he has a beer with them because that's when you see who they really are. What do you think about with recruitment? I know it's true. I'm not.
Well, I don't know. I think that, well, if you do anything, you get good at it. So there's probably some validity in that. But essentially, you have a beer with someone, you can bring something out as well. So doing things a little outside the norm. And like there's been times where I've had people sleep on I had a dude from home in Dalhousie that didn't know him, but I knew of people that knew him, and he needed an opportunity. His family is South African and he couldn't catch a break down there. So he came up and slept on my couch. I'm lucky I've got a very patient partner. That's not normal, and I'm not saying everyone should do that, but he worked out really, really well. And then he became into a senior position. It was only a couple of nights, and now he's hiring staff off us. But I'd had a couple of beers with him before I made that decision. It wasn't just, hey mate, come sleep on the couch. It is, it is actually just taking the time for someone in some sense. And yeah, they more often not will surprise you. But I think, was it kind of people get good at doing interviews, so they're obviously not good at jobs. I think people don't leave jobs, they leave management and culture, essentially. If you've got something they're interested in, I mean, yeah, that's when you got to really do the due diligence at the start, which we're really good at, is finding out about the individual and what their motivators are, their drivers, what their passion is, who they're surrounded by, who they shouldn't be surrounded by. And then just telling them, hey, look, this is what it could be for you. This is how we can look to help you. Here's what we can and can't. Also, that's a big part of it as well. If you can't help them with some things, just don't pretend that you can, because they'll probably get to help them somewhere else. So, and appreciate it as well. But yeah, really diving deep into who they are, what they want to be working towards, and having those upfront conversations is a key part, getting the best out of them.
You said something interesting there. It's like the environment they're in. Because I learned a lesson. I was 18. Mum left. I was fortunate. She's like, "Oh, you can rent out the house." So I was living a good life. Rented it out, and I got these two. Yeah, she just left it to go be a farmer. She just went and rented and just left the house. Yeah, she quit her job as an agricultural scientist. Took our pet of 9 years and trained to be a sheepdog. She's a savage. Just left. So I was 18. I was like, okay, well, I'm head tenant now. Let's piece that puzzle. But it's gone somewhere. What was that?
Siblings with you?
No, just me. Just me, brother.
Mate,
yeah, dangerous for an 18-year-old man.
Really impressed with like your legs ahead of where like I haven't had someone so articulate, and you've got an X factor that I haven't interviewed or met before, which is why I agreed to do this podcast. But that says a lot. It's what you go through. So
yeah, for sure. But that's where it gets feral. So I got these flatmates. So they seem nice. I mean, they come in, and then we started getting visited by the police, and they searched the premises. There was stolen goods, there was drugs, none of mine. And the police officer said to me, they're like, "Oh, you should get rid of these people." I'm like, "Why?" Well, because they're dating a prominent crime family in Palmerston North, and then I pissed them off, and why they came in the house with a gun and all that. But it taught me it taught me ask the people. The girls are nice, we got along, but then the environment they were surrounded in, came as part of it. So we got robbed 6 times in 2 weeks. The cops came twice in one day.
yes.
So lesson learned at 18.
Yeah, that's true though. Like a lot of people, and we deal with it a lot because of predominantly these people that are around their own ones that are in construction for lack of being able to do anything else. I think, sometimes in that environment that they're in, they're told that they're not going to be any better. They've got bad leadership, but we can often be the difference between them progressing to something or not. And I think that's a really powerful place to sit, and something we're all really passionate about, because if you have the ability to help someone or do better, why shouldn't you? It spins my wheels. It spins everyone in the business's wheels. And it's identifying that though. It's like, some people don't see sometimes the environment they're in. There's a whole lot of psychology behind some of that, that's a different path to go down. But that stuff fascinates me, and it's something I've sort of studied over time as well, due to, my past and that as well, having a bit of a different one to others too. Everyone's past is unique, but it shapes us for who we are, and what we go through means we look at the situation we end up in, and the perspective that we have based on what we've walked through is different to others. So I love the ability to be able to support individuals of that sort of caliber. We also get a high-end level of people in management as well. So we do recruitment around the GM. I put a GM into Mitsubishi. So I love, just sort of progress. I love cars. I'm passionate. Progress. I had a mullet before this podcast, actually. I took it off just for you. But down.
What an honor.
But it is, we do sort of all sorts, but it's, I've walked through a lot of different things and done a lot of different things in terms of hospitality and so forth as well. So it's, what I've learned, that means I can do that stuff as well.
Well, one thing I'd be curious to, so I always talk about like kindness and being nice. Being kind isn't always nice. So how do you balance, you've got this person, you've had an upbringing that's relatable maybe, and you care about them and you want to help them, but you're actually hurting them because you're just trying to help them so you feel good about yourself. How do you balance the realization that things aren't good for them, but you still want to uplift them? Like doing the uncomfortable part of caring about someone.
I don't know if I understand, like, kind isn't nice. That's kind of...
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So that nice guy that pretends to just be a girl's friend, but actually has no interest in being her friend and is just on the, like, people pleaser. And then you had the kind person that has boundaries and has the uncomfortable conversations with someone being like, hey, look, what you're doing isn't good for you. Or having me in your life isn't good for you. I got to make this call. So that's kind, like that's supporting them. Being nice is doing it for yourself, so you look nice in front of them. So that's sort of how I compare it, like being nice versus being kind. You don't have to agree with that, but basically, if you care about someone, how do you balance telling them bad things that they don't want to hear, but it's good for them?
Well, I think essentially that's helping them though, isn't it? So
yeah.
Is that not nice?
I don't think it's nice, but you can call it a different word.
Oh, you don't think it's nice to tell someone what they need to hear?
No, I associate nice as people pleasing, and I think kind is, looking out for them. But it's not always nice.
Yeah,
you can call it nice. Yeah, that's just the definition.
You're doing it for them. Yeah, I understand what you're saying now. I guess
trying to say,
never really had appreciation of it, but yeah, I get what you're meaning. It's not really nice to say some of the stuff that they sometimes need to hear, but it's the best thing for them.
So how do you balance that, being a nice guy, wanting to be a nice guy and people to like you, but realizing it's not good for them? Like, how do you look in the mirror, like letting go of that lost puppy that's not doing well, but you're like, I got to kick you to the curb so you can stand on your own 2 feet,
If you're comfortable that you've done everything you can to help them see what they need to see and they don't see it, then it isn't point pushing on, because your time is valuable in recruitment. Like, we are short of time. We're essentially a business that people come to us and they get there's a good way to put it, is they get another manager in their business without having to pay us a salary. Essentially, we make our money by how many hours these people go to work and getting the right talent into the right role in terms of permanent recruitment. So it's pretty easy, I think, for me to let go when we need it, which I have done a number of times, because we persist probably more than others would. And it's just like, how many times do you want to get bitten before it's no good for you? So eventually the nice wears out, if that's the way it rolls on.
My tear. I just scrambled you with new word definition. But like,
I think the best for them, they either have the lesson with you by being upfront with them, and then here's an example. I had a guy that was doing work for us as a STMS, and I upskilled him into class 2. He had his learners when he came along. So I got him into his class 2, got him into his class 4. He was with me for a couple of years, but he still had at the end, there was just a couple of hiccups. I had new management come in to support it, and I was managing directly before. they'd seen, but this guy's got a lot more experience than I have. He's been over in mines and Tanzania and stuff, running 600 staff, and then in Australia and out the back there. So he's seen it and been there, done it, and he's a bit older than me, but I won't say because he might see this. But he saw some of the behaviours and stuff, and we're getting the best out of this guy, but he had a bit going on personally, which came through to work, and he didn't demonstrate the right behaviours in terms of to the public and also to a client, which led through to the council and almost jeopardised a contract for us. And my manager managed him through that process properly, gave him his last warning, and then within a day's time, he'd done something to an old lady on the street, which was just not appropriate. Nothing like that. It was around the way he'd spoken to her, which made her feel unsafe.
Oh, bro, you made that sound so terrible.
That's why I had to say that. It was like that. It sounds way worse than it was, but it was pretty bad. I won't say he was
Yeah.
to someone that, you know, you speak to out as, and she actually wrote a handwritten complaint, which was very, I don't know, I felt so bad. Well, I read it and I was like, oh, come on, mate. And I know that's not him as an individual through that period of time I was with him, but I had to tell him, we can't go anywhere with this. We've got to take action, and this is why. And I went to the council and I said, this is our actions that we're doing. We don't align with the way this guy's behaved. He's got a lot going on himself, but we let him go. We had to let him go because we were stuck. His final warning was done, and then he did this. And I said, you got to go. But just before Christmas, this is over a year ago, we spoke again. I caught up, and he thanked me because he's like, you know, I seen what was happening, and he's coming back to work for us. Well, he's actually back for us now. Sometimes being not nice can help people, and they can have the lesson that they need to have, and you can actually shape them and be the best thing for them. So differentiating,
it's huge.
Yeah, he's a good man. He's a good lad, but again, he's a prime example of someone that hasn't had good leadership. Hasn't had the right people around him. He's trying to make his way. He's quite young, got a young family. He's actually taken on kids that aren't his from his partner that he's with, and that comes with complexities and stuff, you know, that you're trying to balance along with the stuff he was doing. He's doing some decent hours, and then, you know, I put a lot behind him and trained him and shaped him a bit more to the respect's still there, and now he's back, and I think he's going to be a different individual.
Yeah, see, I mean, the environment, there's a good example of Vietnam vets. So a lot of the soldiers are doing heroin over there, which this relates in some way. I know it started with heroin, but they're doing heroin over there, and then they come back, and pretty much all of them give it up, which normally you would expect a lot more keep it going. And the whole reason is just the environment change. Because you think about, you know, addicts in the normal environment, they're surrounded by other people doing it. They're surrounded by the trauma that led to them, you know, trying to medicate their emotions. So just if you can be the right environment for someone that's had a tough upbringing, things can change. But just on that, like, what do you think about culture? So you bring someone in, you got to make sure they have 5 beers with the manager by Friday, because everyone's got an alcoholic probably. But what do you think about culture when you're bringing them in?
So are you meaning in our business?
Yeah, pick one. Pick a business that you know well, that like you like the onboarding and the structure of culture, like, because you bring someone in, and like the first day you surround them around someone with good attributes, and then on Wednesday, etc. Yeah.
Oh, first impressions last. Obviously, when you're doing a bit of a dance at the beginning, when you're trying to pertain if someone's the right person for you and you're the right business for them. But then if you do get them in the business, it's about how you do that. And we find more often than not, when there's a bigger company with a lot going on, that initial stage of onboarding can be overlooked. And that's probably the most important. First impressions last. So you get them in, you want to be organized, you want to make sure that everything you need to do in terms of your compliance, kiwis, like with actual documentation and so forth, and the induction side of things needs to be pristine and organized. Like we still have contractors now that have people turn up and they don't even know what the business is about. They're just like, we know you're a contractor, we don't know what you specialize in, we don't know how you started. But the real key to success and retention, I think, is actually having an understanding for who you are as a company, the purpose of what you stand for, and your mission. And if you're getting new talent into the company, like this is where we actually do it for some of our clients, and it's actually helped them retain them because we are quite involved in what we do. We'll get to understand a company, the people in it, the senior leaders, and more often than not, some of the people that are in that leadership position, say for ground crew or so forth, the supervisors, they've just been there working for a period of time, they've worked their way up, but they haven't had that soft skills, they haven't had that, I guess, leadership training to manage all these different personalities, but they get loved that task because they're most technical and competent to be able to do what they need to do. So we can often soften that and actually help with managing the culture and the onboarding process, because we go out there with the agencies. For example, we're in there the first week, there's check-ins throughout that week. You go out to site, you drop off coffee, you catch up, you've got to have a site induction to make sure they're in a safe environment. There's a non-negotiable for us around that, because it's like a critical process that not only supports our level of service for the client, but the candidate as well, which, and like I was saying before, the onboarding and the induction side of things is the most important. We'll sit with for companies, we know what I mentioned before, who they are, what they stand for, and their vision sort of thing, because we work closely enough with management and the ownership to get that out, but also to represent it and entice the right talent. Because if you don't know that, how are you the expert in the equation trying to bring the right people on? And we think that's important. Same as if in business, they might not have the structure. A lot of young contractors, or actually, to be fair, not even young. Some companies have been around for 30 years, they're generational. They don't even have the structure, but they have the name, and they have, there might be a succession planning time, but they haven't actually had the tiered management structure they require. So we end up being a bit of a recruiter, consultor, consoler, counsellor, all that sort of thing, as well as HR. So we end up helping them with those parts that are crucial to them retaining the candidates, and shaping their organisation as well. There's actually a couple of them that I've helped with some strategy conversations and around what they should be doing and what I see in the market, because we sit in a bit of a unique position where we see all sorts of sizes, shapes, and colours. So it's it is I think that's the easiest thing for them to trust us, because we actually sit in that side, and I've been there and done it myself in our businesses and others as well. So yeah, that's onboarding, and that's the kind of waffling now, but you can tell.
You're in a team, mate. It's good. Good value. Well, I sort of see, so I used to recruit salespeople, and I sort of see recruitment kind of like reverse sales. So with sales and marketing, there's a time to first value. There's a certain thing within your process. When you get them to that event, the lifetime value may triple of that client. So for example, if you had a marketing agency, if you get them a high ticket sale in the first 2 weeks, they stay for 2 years. So everything you structure is focused purely on trying to get the minimum amount of time to that first value point. And the same thing with sales is like you have outreach. The best people you want aren't as easily found, so you need to reach out a lot more to access those people. So I sort of see recruitment kind of like that. Like you've got an onboarding sequence in sales to the time of first value. With recruitment, there's a key action they need to achieve that will lead to them staying in the business longer. And you need to do an uncomprehendable amount of volume of outreach to justify the quality of the prospect you're bringing in. But I'm winging it. I did it like 6 years ago when I was recruiting. So now you got them in front of you. Well, how do you get them in front of you? Is it just LinkedIn outreach? What do you think about in terms of getting people?
Well, as I was saying before, we're a little different in the sense that we have been contractors. So, and we also, I don't know, you can probably tell in the short time we've known each other, we talk to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and we don't mind.
Sounds like you go to prison to get recruits, mate. It's like doing talks, keynotes, handing out oranges.
I have actually spoken to Black Power before, been to their house and
brought
and they were, there's a misconception around some of the gangs, but we're probably on
community.
Yeah, it is. It is. Some of them don't have family. Some of them don't have people to look up to, and not all of them are bad. A lot of my family from my Māori heritage and part of both blue and red or whatever, but that's going down a different rabbit hole.
Yeah, let's not unpack your childhood, brother.
However, it is, they're great people, and again, sometimes it's just, you can be the difference between them going the right way to the wrong. So, we,
where do you find them after you went on your tangent? Like, how do you find people that are good?
No, I was just going to say, we don't, well, Luke's, Jamie, Tom, we've all been in contracting, talk to every Tom, Dick and Harry. We've got our own personal network. I've lived in most parts of New Zealand. Besides our personal network, we've got tools to the back end of Seek and Trade Me. They have this ability for us to go in and shoulder tap talent, skilled talent if we can. Brand's important. You need to put out who you are and what you stand for. I think that's been more important now more than ever. So having your brand personality portrayed in the right way, which means being clear and defined with who you are as a company and what you stand for, as I was touching on before. Some of our clients, we have to help them with that, but for us, we've got to live and breathe it ourselves, right? So, I mean, I could get you to ask anyone in the business of who we are and how we do things differently, and I'm pretty confident everyone will have an answer for you. And again, what you're saying before around being quick to getting the right people across the line for your clients is to obtain that business. Moving with urgency is good, because when they have seats that are unfilled and there's machinery or wheels not turning, it's a cost to the company. So predominantly in blue collar, if you've got a truck there with no driver, how's it going to be making money? It's going to be burning your pocket. So understanding what or why that urgency is required is key. And then also moving with urgency for them once you know or understand your business to get the right people. So that's using your own personal network. For us, just having sushi before I come on the call with yourself, and saw someone with a jacket on and just struck up a yarn. And now I've got a meeting with him, and he's got a trip management company in Palmy, Napier, Auckland, and Wellington. So there's an opportunity there just like that. And then that's the same. That's just it doesn't have to be an example of a business owner, but in the pub, like Luke is a big advocate for sitting down for a pint. And it was the other day, he saw a guy with a ham and cheese sandwich, struck a conversation with him. Now he's driving a truck for him. So that's literally, you got to be proactive. You got to use the tools that you have on offer, which we have through our systems and licenses that we pay extra for that doesn't cost our client, and then also the vetting side of things as well to make sure that you're getting the right talent. And then just everywhere there's events. Like we're big on events. We're hosting one at the end of the year as well, which is something that's close to my heart. But I'd say through that kind of thing, I'm going to meet a lot of people. I'm also playing rugby next month with ex-All Blacks, Ben Smith and DJ Forbes and all those guys, and there'll be a lot of people that...
You've out of the bathroom. I know that's Aaron Smith, though. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see him at the airport today, but I don't know if...
But yeah, so just networking and keeping your eyes open and always just trying to have a genuine chat with people.
Yep, we're also part of initiatives that are related to the industries that we're in. So CCNZ, we're a big advocate for that in every region that we have a presence in. And then also the events that they run. We like to support what they do in terms of excavator competitions, truck driving competitions. There's a lot more events than you realise from independents like Road Transport Authority. They put on a trucking show the AMP show in Christchurch, and then there's the Wanaka, Wheels Over Wanaka, stuff like that, where everyone gets their gear together. The one we're doing in August is hopefully one that I think I could have supersede me, where we're doing a special rigs for kids, and everyone's going to bring their trucks down. We'll do a big loop. We have a ambassador come along and speak, and all the donations are going towards Cholmondeley House. So just doing stuff that we believe in, or just us being us, is the probably key to how we've got the right talent. Because if you align yourself with the right people, then the right talent comes forward. And if you present your brand in the right way and you live and breathe what you feel or what you stand for, that ties in as well. So it is, brand is a big part of it. Hiring the right people and giving the vision and values for what you stand for them to walk towards is also the key to our success and our growth so quickly. So I think a lot of people understand that, but it does get tough for people to do it when they have a lot of other things to manage and deal with. But sometimes a refresh, like a good Christmas break and a reset button to look at where we're going and what we're doing. That's the other thing with some of our clients, and they don't really set the targets or set their communication around what they're working towards. It might be just at a management level. But if we have that intel, we can help them with that vision, because there's more often than not, especially on larger clients, we'll have that context because we are dealing directly with management, and we can support them by having that trickle down to the guys on the ground where they might not feel they've had the communication from management, but they get it from us, and it does help. And if we find there's any issues, then we send it back through. So that works well as well.
Well, it's huge. I always like the analogy, like who's going to get on a bus if they don't know where it's going?
Yeah.
And I sort of approach, in my limited experience in recruitment, the girl, yeah, the party bus, the one you own, that's crazy that you got to, I feel like we need to minimize the things you do, but I guess you just hire good people and they run it. So maybe the pros and cons of that. But like, I sort of see, where I see it, is your vision big enough to fit other people in it? The values is like the filter of which you approach opportunities and how they make decisions without you. But then when you hire them, you just can, if they achieve their vision, like if we achieve our vision, is there room for them to achieve theirs? And then as soon as you hire them, you're just like, oh, let's just obsess over their vision. And then the moment that it's not right for them, hey, like, I think you should quit. So someone came up to me when I was training him. He's like, I'm thinking about this opportunity, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure. I'm like, well, yeah, I think you should leave. Like you just said, that this is what you want to achieve. That's the direction. It's not to be said by that, but any closing remarks for the people with bad culture and how to turn it around, mate? What is your top tip?
Top tips. I guess it's just being aware, be present in your business. I mean, and then listen to those that are telling you the things sometimes you don't want to hear. Be open to feedback. We, as much as we have, well, we've got quite a few staff in different regions with different issues, different families, different things that they deal with, but we have that ourselves. So us as business leaders or people leaders, we can often get distracted with what we're doing and sometimes not hear what we need to hear. So having good structure in place, being close to your day-to-day, or as close as you can be with the right processes, depending on your size. I know that there's different tiers and so forth, but the governance and really listening to your people is the key to a great culture. And being open to that feedback, because, hey, I love when I'm being told I'm wrong, which is a weird thing to say, but if I'm wrong, I want to know why. And if it's an opportunity for me to learn from it and to be able to not do the same thing next time for the right reasons, I'd love and welcome that feedback. So I'm always saying to these guys, like, I'll give you guys what I think we should be doing, how we should be doing it, and how we're going to get to where we need to be. But if there's something you can see as an opportunity or something I might not have done right, tell me, because, yeah, like you say, I have a few things that I'm doing at once in terms of buses and whatnot, traffic and so forth. So there could be things I slip up on, but it's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to be better. But I think the key for anyone that's wanting to have a good culture is to really make sure you've got good structure, good processes, great people around you, and you're giving that vision and listen to your people.
Oh, done. Concise. Thanks for coming on.
Cool. See you, mate.